think you all know I'm Rachel. And Karen is our tech host for the evening. Karen, if you want to say hello.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah. So even though this is going to be a big group, and I think everybody is, obviously not everybody is going to be able to say things, that it would be good to hear a little bit from a few people, to just sort of get like a temperature reading of how everyone is doing. And I don't know if anybody feels brave and would like to jump in and have something to say, but hi, Kylie.
Hi, I'll say thank you, Rachel, for this. I look forward to this every month. The temperature of my well-being and self-awareness has it's just getting higher and higher, or more spacious is the language. I just find this technique has just changed my life, and I do it every afternoon, 4 o'clock. I'm just really committed to doing this, and it's fantastic, and I'm just so grateful for you to bringing this to us.
Well, you're so welcome. And I'm glad to have some people to bring it to.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I will speak up, Rachel, Susan.
Okay.
And I will say that I had quite an insight into a core belief that I was unaware of. And I can only attribute it to the fact that I've been doing a Tara practice every night. And it's been extraordinary to find that core belief. And as I said, I can only attribute discovering that to the grace of Tara.
And do you want to say what the core belief is, or would you rather not?
No, that's fine. I will say it's that I am not enough. And I was looking at that, and a couple of days later, I discovered that I was covering that up with, I always know what's best.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So then I was working with a friend today, and we dove quite a bit deeper into both of those. She said one was, oh, you will know the words, hypertonic and hypotonic, something like that. Anyway, we then, as I said, went deeper into the shame and other related feelings underneath all of that.
Yeah. And so the practice, it sounds like, is helping you to uncover it, but also to be present to it.
Slowly, but
yeah.
Yes, very slowly, but yes, yes, yes.
Thank you. Thank
and
you.
I am so grateful for you speaking with Tammy Simon. And that's how I first heard of you and heard of your book. And then everything gradually unfolded from there. So deep, deep gratitude.
You're totally welcome.
Hi, Rachel. I'm Tina.
Yes.
I'm brand new to this practice, but not new to Buddhism. I've been following Buddhism for 21 years. Brand new to Tara. And so I was reading Longing for Darkness, which led me to your book, and to the Tara book.
Right.
And I got the cards, and I can't wait. I'm just a dry sponge, ready to take in whatever it is, but I'm new.
Well, that's fine. New is good. Old is good. New is good.
I never chanted before, but I have my little harmonium, and so now I'm doing chanting.
Good. Excellent. Thank you, Tina. So, hey, Mary. Yeah.
Is it okay? I didn't know if I spoke in front of someone.
No, go ahead.
So I'd like to share a couple things in terms of weather report. I am, after the past few days, I really underestimated how much I had been holding
Mm.
and felt like I was in captivity for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
And I'll just pause for a minute. I'm sort of need to catch my breath. Which led me to, I can't underestimate what all the forces that I don't know that are playing on me, or what I think is me. And so I just wanted to share that. And I'm really glad to be here today. And the other piece is, I had a friend that said, Tara is not your imaginary friend. And it's an aspect of your mind. And that made me want to practice more. And and it feels the opportunity to cultivate this intimacy, this intimacy with my mind, or with the aspect of mind with a capital M versus the little m, is great. I'm very grateful. So thank you so much for doing this.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Thank you. Yeah. Does anybody else want to say something about your personal weather, whether it's what's been going on or to do with Tara? I will be saying some things about my own personal weather that I imagine are connected to everybody else. But the reason it's nice, when people weigh in like this, is often one person is saying something that 10 other people are feeling. And it's like you, Mary, this idea, I have this sense that probably most of us just don't know what we've been carrying for the last 4 years. The last year, the last month, the last 4 days, so it's helpful to hear.
Hi, I'm Brett. Wait a minute.
Here.
Oh, yeah. I'm Brett, and I have to say, I feel like the drain of the last 4 years, I've been re-traumatized and looking for some peace of mind now that there isn't all this negativity or all this, I don't know, it just reminded me of childhood, of all the fear and of all the uncomfortability of, the future is hopeless, or, it was always crisis management. But I mean, just the negative language was so draining to me.
Oh man, all by himself.
So let me ask you all to look and be sure you're muted if you're not muted already, because
I'm going to go ahead and mute everyone, and Rachel, unmute yourself, and then also if you're going to speak, to unmute yourself.
okay.
So Rachel, you should unmute yourself.
Okay, there we go. Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah. Chris?
Can you hear me?
I can.
Yes. Hi, Rachel. I'm so glad I was able to, well, actually, Rachel, I discovered you on Sounds True with Tammy last April, I believe. I was taking an Epsom salt bath, and I listened to you, and I was drawn into it immediately. And I got the book, and I started to read it. And I was also seeing an acupuncturist who is a doctorate in traditional Chinese medicine. So a couple of months went by, and I said to her, her name's Terry. I said, Terry, have you ever heard of green Tara? She said, green Tara? I'm like, yeah. She said, sure, I have. And I said, well, she seemed to come to me. I didn't go looking for her, but she's helping me. And Terry said, every time you come into my office for a session, Green Tara has been there. And then she moved the camera, because we were doing virtual at that time because of lockdown. So she moved the camera and she showed me Green Tara. And I'm like, really? And she said, I think she did come to you, but she's been with you for a couple of years now. And that's all I heard. And I really appreciate what you've been doing, because the book is awesome. I took her advice and I learned the one mantra, Green Tara mantra, and I listened to Druk Mogal. She's excellent. And then with your guidance the last couple of months, I have actually done now the Swift and Courageous, and I did the Great White Tara. So each month, I allow myself a month to learn that Tara.
Yeah,
I got my mala for Christmas, and I sit down and I practice. It's a good hour every morning religiously. And I will say that there's been a huge difference inside of me that I really can't explain, but she is there. She does come, she does comfort, and she's got so much compassion. And yes, she's been so good for the past year because of the situation we have been in. And I will never, ever leave her. I don't think she'll ever leave me either. So I just wanted to share and to thank you so much for doing this. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, my mind, my body, and my spirit, and my soul. Thank you, Rachael.
Yeah, you're so welcome. And so maybe I'll say a few things, and what I'm going to say a few weather things, and then go into the practice. And then, the way this goes, as many of you know, because you've been here already a couple of times, is that, I just like to make a few comments, and things come to me from other traditions, which I like to bring into the room, so to speak. And then we practice, and when we get to the end, we're going to recite the mantra 108 times. And Karen has put the mantra in the chat box, and she'll put it in there again when we get to the point where we're going to actually practice. And then we sit in silence for a while. So, and I have 2 cats, they'll probably make themselves known, but I just like to let people know to kind of anticipate that mantra chanting. And even though we'll all be muted, I really encourage you all to chant along with me. And it's also, if it feels more relaxing to just listen and kind of let the chant come to you, that's fine too. But I do like to remind people there's going to be that period of silence. So if you don't hear anything, that doesn't mean we've gone anywhere. So we are doing the Golden Tara tonight, which is it's the 3rd chapter in the book. And in this particular system, which comes from Atisha, it's the 3rd one in the system. So I want to say it's just so fascinating to me the way teachings come, and they come like the day before we're going to meet, that I just hear things that I love, and they're already connected to this. So, I'd like to share some of those. And some of those come from Lama Rod. So if you all have been hanging out with him in the last couple of days, you might hear something that's familiar. But I think what I want to say is Golden Tara is a long life deity. These different colors, we started with the green Tara, from which they're all thought to come. I mean, actually, there are thousands of emanations of Tara. This is just a particular system, this 21 Taras, a way of really connecting with the possibilities, all the possibilities of Tara, but you have to know there are infinite possibilities always. And the color system is really wonderful. The white ones are peaceful. The red ones are, give you this feeling of containment so that you can really hold a lot of stuff while being aware of it. And the golden ones and the yellow ones have to do with increasing life energy. And in this case, if you read her description, it says she's holding a vase in her right hand, which increases life energy, power, and riches. So in a minute, I'm going to talk about how I think that actually works, what that might mean. But I do want to say that the events, okay, let me see if I can show you all this. This is a sweatshirt, actually, believe it or not. And this is what I wear sometimes in the winter. This is my cosmic sweatshirt. And I put this on today because I think it's very celebratory. And I think there's a lot to celebrate. I think there's a lot of possibilities. We don't know what's going to happen and nothing's going to be perfect, but I think the possibilities now are much greater. And but I think one of the things, if any of you all, I'm sure some of you watched President Biden in the memorial service at the Washington Monument, at the reflecting pool for the 400,000 people who have died of COVID. And it was so striking to me. I think he really only said 2 or 3 sentences. And the 2 I remember, and I really don't think he said more than 2 or 3, was he said, in order to heal, we have to remember. And remembering is difficult, but we can't heal if we don't remember. Any of you guys who have been around long enough to remember John Bradshaw, he used to say, you can't heal what you can't feel, right? And so I think remembering is just amazing. I mean, remembering is also, we can remember our ancestors, we can remember all kinds of good things. And at the same time, in this moment of shifting, in this moment of opening and hopefulness and possibility, the backside of that is all the difficulty that we've been through. And so one of the things I think is fabulous about the Dharma teachings, and this is across the board, Tara gives us an amazing field of energy to work with, this female Buddha. I'll say more about that in a minute. But the idea really is that Tara is also space. And so she's everything. So everything, there's room for absolutely everything in her domain. And, I think we can do practices, and sometimes when we're in the practice, we can touch into that spaciousness. We can really feel the vastness. And it's like the contraction goes away in the body as well as in the spirit and the heart. Then you can get up from the practice and something happens in your family or relationship or the news or whatever. And it feels like it's gone like that. And sometimes we can get discouraged by that. And what I want to say, though, is that Tara really includes absolutely everything. And so we don't need to be discouraged, especially if we can remind ourselves of that. We just say, oh, yeah, that's here now. And that was here just a minute ago, and I can expect it to be here again. Because really, everything gets to be included. So one of the things we can ask Tara to do is help us, from our internal consciousness, feel supported in showing up and being present to the everything that keeps showing up to us, no matter what it is. So, that's true of Tara in general and all the Taras. So when we get a chance to look at this emanation of Tara, golden Tara, and she's, appearing in this subtle body of radiant golden light, and the teaching is, you know, she's really here to help us with increasing our life energy, then, you know, part of that is celebration. Somebody told me today that they were on, this is a minister friend of mine, African American, and he was on a Zoom call with some of his folks, and somebody had changed their name from their name to Oh Happy Day. And I mean, I think that's wonderful. And so it's just so poignant, you know, like one minute we can just feel so happy, and then there can be this echo of sadness. But I think, you know, tonight, Golden Tara, you know, gives us the opportunity to really look at what's golden. Yeah. And to maybe put the celebratory part in the foreground a little bit. And at the same time, just to have all the compassion and spaciousness we have for things like what Brett was saying. It's like, you know, I think for many of us, the last 4 years have been like, you know, living in an abusive household. I think it's going to take us a long time, a pretty long time, to not be waiting for some shoe to drop, because we've been waiting for shoes to drop every day for the last 4 years. So, you know, my hope is, and I hope some of the things I'll say about Golden Tara, that with that celebratory, joyful energy, that it actually is going to help us contain all the other stuff too. It gives us this sort of radiant foundation. So, yeah, I think I'll just move into talking about Tara. And yeah, to just, you know, for maybe all of us, you can be, as I'm talking, you can just take a minute to kind of tune into your very own self right now and see where the joyful celebratory energies are. But you can also see where maybe some of the sad stuff is, or the maybe still a little vigilant energies are. So, and again, when we get to the end, I'm going to leave a little room to check back in again, and it'll just still be a few people because there are a lot of us here tonight. But I think it might be nice to hear from some of you at the end. So if something comes to you that you really want to say, yeah, remember it and plan to say it at the end. So if we're looking at this sadhana of Tara, and it tells us that she appears in this subtle body of golden light, and that she's very peaceful, and that she's holding this vase that, as I said, gives us, you know, increases our life energies, power, and riches, and that would be material and spiritual. So we have enough to eat, and maybe we've got an extra dose of loving kindness or something like that. But I want to move to the praise now, which Karen has just put in the chat box. You know, everybody accuses me of this. I just love this. I love all the Taras, but I really love this. So in this praise, where it says, you can read it yourself and you probably already got it anyway, but it says her sphere of activity is generosity, diligence, austerity, peacefulness, patience, and meditation. So those are the paramitas, or the perfections. And, you know, if you look around from other traditions or other teachers, sometimes they're different. As generosity, I don't care what teacher, what tradition, who you're talking to, generosity is always going to be on that list, and it's the head of the list, because everything else actually derives from that. So you may find other things listed from other traditions. This just happens to be what's listed here in this praise. And so I want to talk about them a little bit because I think they are really a big, huge part of how we actually got to this moment today in this country. It's how we get anywhere with our practice. And I think it offers us, like, well, how does Tara increase our life energy and our wisdom? And then it says, well, this is her sphere of activity. This is a big hint, and there are probably lots of other ways too, but this is one place we can really focus. So, generosity, which is just giving, can be anything. Can be anything from thinking of somebody in the middle of the day and sending them a generous, kind, and loving thought or prayer. It can be saying hello to somebody. It can be giving your time to an organization. It can be actually donating money. It can be passing along the Dharma. Generosity can be anything. And one of the teachers, and I think I wrote this in the book, Alan Locos, was really saying that to fully understand generosity, you kind of have to understand shunyata, or emptiness, or the interconnectedness of all being. And, I like that he brought that forward. And one of the places that I see it is like, if you take a moment before you eat a meal and you just look at what's on your plate, and then you start imagining how it got there, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I mean, the generosity of countless beings, so countless you can't even imagine them. And actually the generosity of our ancestors, we wouldn't even be here were it not for our ancestors. So this infinite interconnectedness, which is another way of saying emptiness, is not only on this plane, that we can look around the trees and the plants and everything, but it's also in this plane, from our ancestors to our descendants and so on. So I think our own sense of generosity, our own deep wish to give anything, can really develop strongly when we feel that we've been the recipient of so much generosity. And I think that, I really know this, that practicing is generous. Doing a practice is really an act of generosity, because we start every single practice we do with this bodhisattva prayer. So the bodhisattva prayer, which says, through the practice of giving and the other perfections, and we say that before every practice, any practice in Tibetan Buddhism, you say that. Through the practice of giving and the other perfections, may I reach full enlightenment or Buddhahood for the sake of all other living beings. So that's it right there. That's the 6 paramitas. So every time we say the bodhisattva prayer at the beginning of every practice, this is what we're actually referring to: generosity, and then also the rest of the paramitas. And, I also know that when we pause to just think of these really basic prayers, people ask me all the time about this practice or that practice, or how much practice, or what's enough, and we don't have time every day to do everything. And yet I can really feel that these basic practice elements, like the bodhisattva prayer, like if you said that 5 times a day and you really thought about what it meant, that would be an incredible practice in and of itself. Then, when you're saying the 4 immeasurables, you're wishing that all beings would have happiness, which is this understanding of the interconnectedness of all beings. That's a wonderful practice in and of itself, and it's an act of generosity. If you actually have slowed down enough to slowly be saying those words and really thinking about what they mean, and maybe not even just thinking about what they mean, but having images in your mind of what they mean. Yeah, those are amazing practices, and it's a very generous thing to do. So it's benefiting the beings that you're imagining, you're hoping all these things for. It's also benefiting you to do it. So that's a few words about generosity. That's a big topic. And then diligence. Wow. Again, that's kind of one of my favorites because you just think about Moses going across the desert. He knew from the time he left that he was never going to actually get to go to the promised land. He had to listen to all these people griping and complaining for 40 years, and he still wasn't going to get to go into the promised land. And he just kept at it. So that idea that we might keep at things because we care about them deeply, things that might not manifest in our lifetime, but because we do them, they will manifest in somebody else's lifetime. And I just want to give one example because I'm so overjoyed about this, that Biden has revoked the permit for the Keystone XL pipeline. So, you know, I marched on Washington twice, got on a bus at 4 a.m. in the freezing cold weather to go to Washington twice. Many years ago when Obama was in office, and me and 12,000 other people. So I'm like one of those little specks of dust, but you know, they add up. And Obama listened, and he stopped it. And then here comes Trump, and he starts it again. You know, he gives the permit with no environmental, you know, real true environmental analysis at all. And because of the indigenous people and everything they've been doing, and God knows they've been doing it for 400 years, but they really have been doing this. The water protectors, Standing Rock, all of that has to do with these pipelines. And, you know, now we're at today. And because of this diligence of thousands of people over all these years, this thing is not going to happen. So I just think none of us ever know at any given moment in time, when we do any one thing, what we are contributing to a much bigger fabric that's really going to be of benefit to countless beings. And it's good to remember that, you know, because sometimes being diligent ain't that easy when what you're deeply longing for just doesn't happen. And then you begin to wonder if it's ever going to happen or you're going to see it, right? So I think remembering these, you know, these really old stories and remembering things from your own personal life, remembering things from the civil rights movement, you know, you can, or from the indigenous people's journey in this country, which has been nothing but trauma, yet they have held on to this incredible sense of life and purpose and connection, you know, which has been a great gift to all of us. So, you know, we can call on them when we're feeling like our diligence is, the gas tank is giving out on our diligence. So, and austerity, I like that too, because to me, actually, what austerity means is not like, oh, you know, giving up everything and going to the monastery, but it could mean being really simple. It could mean being austere about a lot of things. I'm not going to consume this much of anything or this much of anything, or if I can say something in a few words instead of a lot of words. And sometimes you may do an austere practice, you know, it may be a small and simple thing. But I think austerity, like right now, I think about that, you know, I'm here in North Carolina, so it's actually winter, which is great. And the trees have shed their leaves long ago. And you go out at night and you see those bare limbs against the dusk and the night sky. And that to me is another form of austerity. They're not decorated right now. It's so beautiful. And I'm sure you can think of your own examples of that. peacefulness, I think, is kind of self-explanatory, and we all get to that in different kinds of ways, but certainly these practices are one of the ways. And patience is, to me, is also connected to diligence. But I actually really remember the day, and this was a long time ago, when I'd been practicing for a while. I just wasn't thinking, well, I'm really getting very far. Yes, Monica, I think austerity could be translated as simplicity. Yeah. Hearing a teacher say, you really have to be patient. You have to have a lot of patience with this. And to me, that was the most encouraging thing, because when I was growing up, a lot of times when my parents or somebody told me to be patient, it was more like, you're doing something wrong. So just be patient, and this was like more, be patient with yourself, like cut yourself a break. This takes a while. It can take a long time. And, it can be also like this too, right? So patience to me can feel like a very loving, kind thing, to remind myself, to be patient. And then meditation, again, that's self-explanatory in a way. And I actually think it was His Holiness who said there's many different ways to meditate as there are people. So that's pretty beautiful. I think these sadhana practices, honestly, are really wonderful. And I depart a lot from tradition, but I love relying on the structure of the sadhana for these practices. It's not like I do a sadhana practice every time I practice. I do lots of different kinds of practices, but especially in a group or sometimes on my own, I love relying on the structure of the sadhana, because these steps are it's like a framework, and you can use the framework, and you can actually relax into the framework and kind of let it, take you deeper and deeper and deeper. So, by that I'm saying I think sadhana practice is a wonderful, wonderful form of meditation, because it's a wonderful container, and it helps us deepen. And at the same time, there are lots of other practices we can do too, on the spur of the moment, like Tara, help me, or just saying Om Tara. Yeah. So those are the 6 paramitas. And, my sense is, and I invite you all to think about these as you're going through your day, that you might be able to imagine, well, gosh, if I meditate, if I am able to be peaceful, if I can just keep at it, if I can be patient, if I can be generous, and especially if you're thinking about those things in a kind of self-soothing, kind way, that you can really see how those paramitas can actually increase our life energy. Because our nervous systems are going to be way more relaxed and not under so much stress. So I wanted to say that, and then I wanted to say something about the mantra before we get to the point where we're reciting it. Om Taritu Risarwa Arya Punye Pushtam Kurusoha. And Arya actually means life energies, and Punye means merit, which I think is actually, you could talk about that a long time, but for me, that is kind of a sense of positive potential, generating positive energy and potential that's useful for yourself and the world. And Pushtam means increase. So really, when we recite this mantra, we're really asking Tara to increase our life energies and merits. And I think it's nice, again, when saying that mantra, to be, we'll be doing this visualization, which I'll talk about when we're actually doing the practice. that we can imagine that the resonant energy of the mantra is also helping. It's like bathing ourselves in light and vibrational energy that really, it's just good for the whole system, for the mind, the heart, the body, the whole system. So it's also interesting, some of these mantras have the word kuru in them. They all don't, not all of them have the word kuru. So the word kuru just adds this sort of extra emphasis. It's like you're really asking, like, do it, like, really do it, please, please, please do it. It's just an extra oomph, it's not like, Tara, would you mind? It's more like, oh boy, Tara, please do this. So I am noticing these different things in the chat box, and I don't think I'm going to have to figure out how to respond to them. And maybe I'll take a look at that at the end. But I just want to, be mentioning these things as we prepare to go into the practice. And I think that one other thing I want to mention, because when my teacher gave this initiation 25 years ago, one of the things he said was that it increases your life energies and wisdom so that all the things you have in mind can be fulfilled. So that's where I got the idea that this particular Tara can help us become more aware of what our life purpose might be, and also help give us this life-sustaining energy to do whatever it turns out that is. So I think that one thing that is really, really clear to me is that our life purpose can actually be something that appears in front of us in a given moment, in a given day. This, my beloved Rabbi Reb Zalman, blessed be his memory, would often say things like, you never know. It may be that you're giving somebody a hand when they fell down that day that was your life purpose, and you completed it. It's kind of a little bit in the same idea, I think, in this Hasidic tradition, that every blade of grass has an angel assigned to it, and the angel stands over that blade of grass and says, grow, grow, grow. So, but I really do think that if we're having this awareness that what we do matters, that these small acts of generosity, these small acts of kindness, even these small acts of just paying attention to our own broken heart, whatever it might be, that those small acts are valuable in and of themselves. And then over the arc of our lifetime, if we're more aware of those things and we do them, then they add up. And I think we see that, in what I was talking about earlier, that the small acts that we do in the bigger things that we're involved with, well, we may not be the leader of the thing, but the small things we do matter. And I think that's really important, because sometimes people get kind of a little bit tortured by the fact that I'm supposed to have some great purpose and I don't know what it is. I do think, though, that sometimes when we really do these practices, and also we're really asking Tara for the awareness and helping, ask for some help so that some of that gets revealed, that sometimes you get an inspiration in the practice that's coming from another source. It's not coming just from the intellect. It's coming from some other place. So I like to encourage people, I think it's Prema Dasara who leads the dances of the 21 Taras, who actually said that all of Tara's jewels represent all of her life's experiences, many lives experiences. But so you imagine that when you link all those jewels together, you have the necklace. And I think it's like that idea that each one of these little things is a jewel in and of itself. And then it can add up to this beautiful necklace. And so I think the last thing I want to say, famous last words, before we practice is I feel like it's Kamala Harris who says this, but I think she's quoting somebody else when she says it. And I don't remember who. But she was talking about, this idea of a woman, a Black woman, a woman of Asian descent, all these firsts that she is, that one of the reasons that's so important is because if you can see it, you can be it. If you've never seen it, you don't know that you can be it. And I feel like this is what Tara is for us. We have these stories about this person, way, way, way long time ago, who had these experiences. And, she did things bit by bit by bit and became enlightened. But we also have this image of Tara, appearing in this subtle body of green light, this awakened, enlightened female Buddha. And, as you all were talking about earlier, several of you in different ways mentioned this, that she is really an outer manifestation. She's an outer image of an inner reality. And so because we have the image, we have the stories, we have the energy that comes from the practice, it really helps us realize if I can see it, I can be it. And not only that, it really helps us realize, actually I already am that. It's not ripened yet. But that potential is inside me, just like it's inside everybody, just like it's inside all little girls who might one day want to be president or vice president, whatever. So I just think it's also, I think, a very, very, very big mystery, because I think Tara is representing an outer reality and an inner reality. And I think it's equally mysterious. Christians talk about God and it's an outer reality and inner reality. Many different religious traditions have different language, but I think at some point we all have experiences where we feel like something from the outside really comes to us. Like, I think it was Chris who was talking about, it felt like Tara found her. That's how I feel. And my image of Tara is like a mama cat that comes and gets her kittens by the scruff of the neck and says, "You're coming with me." So, we find her, she finds us, but it's pretty amazing if you think about it. These scriptures, these images, these practices that really originated in early first century India and then made their way all around the world, almost 2,000, not quite 2,000 years later, are here in the West. That's pretty wild. In my estimation, it's wild. And so I think those of us who are really drawn to her should trust that, to just trust that longing and that connection and that being drawn, and keep doing it and see what happens. So I'm just noticing someone has put in the chat that they're dedicating their practice tonight to their brother-in-law, Bruce, who's been sick for a really long time. And so, just to say to everyone, you can put it in the chat box. I'm not going to read them all out loud, but people might be reading them, or to hold anybody in your heart that you're concerned about in terms of actual illnesses of any kind, that to imagine that along with all the beings you might dedicate it to, that there may be specific people that you want to dedicate it to. And And this is one of the practices, you know, we do it anyway, but this is one of the practices that really specifies that we can visualize these golden rays of light streaming out of Tara's heart to our own body and to anybody, and also areas. Yeah. So, yeah. Please bring those people who are near and dear to you into your heart. And I think it's good to put them in the chat box because people can read them. And, you know, and if you don't do that, just knowing that holding it in your own heart in this practice is wonderful and also very helpful. So I would say, yeah, let's let our hearts rest in this Tara practice. And I'm just going to lead it. And so you can relax. You don't have to worry about a thing. And I do ask people, if you want to, when we get to the praise, and I bet Karen will put it in there one more time when we get there, to recite the praise out loud, even though you're muted, and to also recite the mantras out loud when we get to that part. So here we go. Yeah. So, wow. So just take a moment. You know, I always start practices this way, and I'm always going to start practices in this way. It's just a lovely thing to say out loud, and it's a lovely thing to do, is to really notice the support that you really do have, and notice it in the concrete sense of whatever you're sitting on right now. And, you know, it's always good to, you know, sit up straight and have the chakras aligned. Sometimes we really need to lean back a little and have our back supported by something, maybe sitting on the floor. But however you are seated, you know, please take a moment to notice all the points of contact of your body with that literal support. And, you know, with your feet on the floor, to feel the contact of the floor, and to imagine the earth beneath the floor. And so with our awareness, we're meeting those points of contact, but we can also imagine that they're meeting us, most especially the earth. We're just aware of the earth beneath us, and we're sending our awareness into the earth to meet the earth with intense gratitude, and to let yourself feel the earth sending love back to you and meeting you with that support. And so we're really kind of grounded in that way. And then in our mind's eye, we bring into our mind's eye an image of space, vast, unlimited, actually unimaginable space, and to have whatever image of space is most beautiful to you. Because whatever is most beautiful to you is going to be the most supportive and heart opening. And as you're gazing out at that image of space, becoming aware of your breath, and that you're breathing in and out of that space, you're exchanging breath with space. And they're being nurtured by that. And the breath is nurturing you. The breath is a support. You know, we don't have to think, oh, gee, I need to breathe now. And to also remember that that image of space is actually an image of our own awakened consciousness. That's what our consciousness is like. It's that spacious. And our practice is really a way of reminding ourselves of that spaciousness so we can actually experience it. And so we get that image of space and we remind ourselves that it really, it holds everything that ever has been, everything that is, or everything that will be. So it's everything is resting in potential in this vastness of space. And then what we're going to imagine coming into being, coming into form in front of us, out of that potential, is the entire mandala of Tara. And we see this mandala of Tara. If it helps you to see the picture of it behind me with green Tara in the center. You know, we're going to focus first on green Tara, just emerging in this body, this subtle body of green light, this compassionate gaze, that famous right foot forward that she's willing to come the minute, the second we even think of her or call on her. Like we can imagine her arising inside of us, but coming to us as well. And she's holding that blue lotus, which is, you know, the symbol of awakened consciousness. And her right hand is stretched forward in the gesture of supreme giving, which means she gives us everything, including enlightenment. And so we start by really focusing on green Tara. And then we take a moment to imagine all of our teachers and our mentors. You can think of them as guides and guardians, and they may be living now on this plane. They may not be. They can be from any tradition. But it's really important to think, imagine, call on specifically those people and those teachers, because they're part of how we got to this moment tonight, actually. And you can also think about your loving, compassionate, wise, and helpful ancestors, the ones who would only wish you well, and ask them to join you and to lend their support. So we think of all of our teachers and these helpful, wise ancestors, and you can imagine them however you want. They can be surrounding Tara, they can be right in front of you, but they're really where you can see them, imagine them. And then behind them are all the 21 emanations of Tara and all their various colors, each of them sitting on a lotus throne, each of them arising in these subtle bodies of light. And then we imagine that we're surrounded by our friends and loved ones and supporters. You can think of some of them specifically. But then we imagine, well, they're surrounded by their friends and loved ones and supporters, and so on and on and on and on. And so ultimately, that reaches out into infinity. And that we're inviting all these beings to participate in this practice and to benefit from it. And so we really are, now we've called in all these Taras and the teachers and the loved ones. And so to think that with all these beings and for all these beings, that we're going to take refuge, that we're going to take refuge, actually rest in this amazing awakened consciousness that Tara embodies as a female Buddha. We're going to take refuge in the wisdom teachings, you know, all the great traditions. Some of them are texts, some of them are oral. You know, it could be an amazing piece of music or art that has really completely opened you to a whole other level of understanding. But really to think of the great wisdom, traditions, and teachings that have come to us in whatever form, we're taking refuge in those teachings. And we're taking refuge in this Sangha and also the others that we are part of, because all of us are part of multiple groups of people, I think, doing different practices. And we're taking refuge in the lineages of teachers and the sanghas of practitioners through the centuries before us, because we really wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have this practice if it weren't for them. So we have multiple multiple sources of refuge, and we're calling on all of them. We're taking refuge with and for all these beings. And we ask that through the power of giving and the other perfections, that we really could wake up 100% in order to be of benefit to all living beings. And we ask that all living beings would have happiness and the causes of happiness, that all beings would never be separated from the sacred happiness, which is sorrowless, and that all beings would be free from sorrow and the causes of sorrow, and that, we could all actually arrive at a state of equanimity without too much attachment or too much aversion, that we might live believing in the equality of all that lives. We just hold these very deep wishes and prayers in our hearts. Om Sabhavashuddha Saradharma Sabhavashuddha. And so now we're going to imagine golden Tara coming into the foreground. This emanation of Tara coming really not very far from us at all, just maybe a little bit above our heads, but very close, in this amazing subtle body of this radiant golden light. And she has a peaceful expression. It's wonderful to imagine that we can awaken through peaceful means. And she's holding this vase, which increases our life energy and power and riches. And, her left hand is at her heart in the gesture of refuge. That hand is also holding that beautiful flower. But I love to think about actually taking refuge in the heart of Tara. And her right hand again is open in the gesture of supreme giving. And so as we see Tara in this way, this radiant being of golden light, we see her top 3 chakras adorned with the syllables Om Aham. And we begin to imagine the blue syllable hum in her heart begins to radiate blue light into the realms of the wisdom beings and the initiatory deities. And it's actually that ray of light emanating from her heart into those realms that invites those beings to come here. And so all these Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, all these awakened beings come. I love this line from the sadhana. It says, because they promise to come when we ask them, they come. They fulfill their promise. They really do come. And so we try to feel that as best we can, that all these awakened beings, the energy of these awakened beings is with us, most especially the awakened energies of all the Taras. And also, especially the white Dakinis, these feminine, powerful beings who can go from one place to the next instantaneously. And they're carrying these white vases, which contains this incredible substances like liquid light. And so as we ask the enlightened ones for purification, Om Sarva Tathagata Avashitsamam, we imagine that these Dakinis are pouring this nectar into our open crown chakra. It's like a river of light. Liquid light is just pouring through us in all of our different bodies, all the different ways we exist. And I think, this is a really good moment to to consciously imagine that as this nectar is pouring through us, this can be one step in releasing any kind of energy that's kind of been bottled up or stuck, energy that feels like it's kind of been stuck from everything we've been through, whether it's last week, last month, last year, or the last several years. This is a wonderful practice in and of itself. Just to imagine, we've asked for purification, and these dakinis are pouring this amazing substance into our open crown chakra. It's flowing through us and pulling all of that stuckness out in whatever energetic form it exists. And we imagine it leaving our bodies through the lower doors, as they say. And then we imagine that one of the dakinis is pouring this same nectar into the open crown chakra of golden Tara. And this one little drop overflows and forms the Buddha Amitabha, who appears just above her crown in a subtle body of red light. And I like to remind ourselves and everybody else, myself and everybody else, that his name actually means light without ceasing. And so now he's kind of adding his light and presence to our practice. And at this point, I think this is really a wonderful point that we can offer our own personal offerings. So again, that can be anything. It can be, gosh, I wish I would quit holding on to this feeling I have of resentment towards so-and-so, or gosh, I wish I could let go of this, or it could be, I'm so grateful that I was able to experience this, or it could be, I want to offer Tara all this work I've been doing, and I've seen the fruition of some of that. Whatever you want to offer her. And I think we can also offer her if we have hopes for the future, or if we've got something we might want to do ourselves to offer the world, offer her that too. We can just really offer her anything and everything. And she is delighted. Just imagine that she's delighted to actually receive anything we offer her. And so as you're really very consciously thinking, what do I want to offer this golden, radiant, life-giving Tara? Just think of what those things are and offer them to her. And imagine that she takes them with great delight and that she can transform them into wisdom blessings. So whatever it is that we've offered her, she can actually illuminate those things and show us, give us some insight about what those things are about, no matter what they are. And sometimes something gets illuminated and you leave the practice and you meet somebody and you can pass that blessing along right that minute or the next day. So we just imagine that we're receiving those offerings, those blessings from her. And now we're going to take this moment. We're just going to take a moment to imagine a couple of other things. Om Bensam Rita Kundali Hana Hana Humpe Om Sabawa Shuddha Saradharma Sabawa Shuddhoham. So we're going to take a moment to imagine this blue wrathful deity, Amrita Kundali. He's actually a protector deity. He's known to remove obstacles from our meditation. I think of him a little bit like Ganesh, who is known as the remover of obstacles in Hinduism. And so it's kind of fun to think about if you know what any of your obstacles are, whether it's to this practice or any practice, a Buddhist practice or any practice, or even just a practice of generosity, whatever obstacles you can imagine to your practice, you can just toss them out there for him and just imagine that he gleefully devours those obstacles. He just clears the path and he enjoys doing it. It's his job. He likes it. He really is a protector. So imagine him clearing away all the obstacles and then dissolving back into our heart chakra, where he does remain as a protector. It's nice to think of him periodically. And then we take just one more moment to go back to that image of space, the vastness of space, and to think of the syllable Om, the syllable of enlightened consciousness, this vibration of awakened consciousness, that it is actually vibrating through space and matter all the time. And to try to sense that could be true. And that as it's doing so, it's creating these amazing, beautiful jeweled vessels, and each one has an Om inside of it. And now from those vessels are pouring these offering substances. And these are the traditional offering substances like food and water and music, incense, flowers, candles. These are the classic offering substances that an Indian family would offer a guest who was coming for a visit, whether expectedly or unexpectedly. And so we're inviting Tara, as to be our guest and to be our helper. And so we're offering all these things to her and all the Buddhas and all the awakened beings, everybody who's come. It's like, just imagine these offering substances pouring out of these vessels, creating an incredible banquet for Tara and all these beings. And then this next line is really Sanskrit, which is inviting Tara and all the beings to enjoy these offering substances. Om Aryatara Sapariwara Argam Pajam Puspe Dupe Alake Ganje Navaje Shabda Pratitye Soha. And so I will say too, it's really can be also very beneficial to the nervous system to imagine these beautiful offering substances. It's an act of generosity to do that, but it's also pleasing to let all these beautiful images pass through our consciousness. And so then, if you like, and if you've got the praise, and maybe it'll show up here in the chat box again, let's read the praise together. I praise the one who has a turquoise and gold body and a hand perfectly adorned with the lotus, whose sphere of activity is generosity, diligence, austerity, peacefulness, patience, and meditation. And so now what we're going to visualize is from, we're going to see again this amazing radiant emanation of golden Tara. And from her heart, and also from this vase in her hand, that golden rays of light are streaming out. And those rays of light are coming into our own bodies, and as well to any of the people that you've either named or that you're holding in your heart. And it can also be people you don't know, and it can be areas of the world that you're concerned about. And to just imagine that as this light is streaming out, it's purifying people, it's helping remove their obstacles and illnesses, and it's purifying areas, and it's bringing about this increase in life energy and power and riches. So the things that really sustain us in our physical lives and our spiritual lives. So just, again, I also encourage people to be gentle with yourself. Some people are, very talented visualizers. Some people are not. You can simplify it. It can just be, imagine this golden light streaming out from Tara to all the people that you want it to go to, with all the healing energy that is coming with it. So let's do this mantra together. Om Tari Tu Risara Ayur Punye Pushtam Kursoha. Om Tari Tu Risara Ayur Punye Pushtam Kursoha. Om Tari Tu Risara Ayur Punye Pushtam Kursoha. Om Tari Tutari Turisawa Arya 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 Punye Pushtam Kursoha. Om Tare Tutare Sawa Ayu 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 Punye Pushtam Kursoha. So I would like to say that as we were chanting the mantra, I just became immediately aware of several things which seem so obvious, but they weren't obvious until we started chanting the mantra of sending this life energy, power and riches, the streaming golden light to anyone and everyone who's sick with this virus, and to increase their life energies, and sick with anything, but really particularly people suffering from COVID, and to really send it to all these healthcare workers who have just given and given and given and given. Just to imagine as this light streams towards those folks that they're really receiving the light, and that light is somehow helping them to manifest energy and spiritual energy and spiritual support, as well as whatever they actually need from the physical world. And then the other thing that came to me was two things together. Was Lama Rod reminding us last night in the community teaching he was giving that the phenomenal world is alive and conscious. And the phenomenal world is also Tara. And the phenomenal world is teaching us all the time if we're just open to the teachings. And so in that sense, it's really supporting us all the time. And today I was in my office, I was having a Zoom call with this pastor, this woman, I just love her. And we were just talking about, everything everybody's been through. She's a lovely African-American young woman. And even talking about it was kind of emotional. And I was realizing, gosh, I'm really tired. And here flashes these two male bluebirds right across the window. I mean, I am almost, I'm 74, I'm not almost 74. I will never not be amazed by the color blue of a bluebird. It was just stunning. It was like just this gift. And yeah. And a white-throated sparrow sitting in the holly bush, just the white of that bird's throat. And what that reminds me of is, just as we begin this practice, with letting ourselves feel the support of the chair we're in, and really, letting ourselves know that we are supported. Somehow we've got to keep reminding ourselves in every way we can that Tara is already always with us, always, and that her support is already there, but even before we ask for it. Like, okay, I'm tired, but she's right here. So it's not all up to, little me, that little separate self me. And that one of the reasons we do these practices is that it reminds us of that, but we have to be reminded of that, and we have to remind ourselves of that. And this golden light of Tara, look for it. You can actually look for it in the phenomenal world. It can be glancing off green leaves. It can be shining in the sky. It can be dancing off a pine needle. It can be, off the back of one of these birds. But yeah, the light, the energy, this life-sustaining, life-giving energy is is flashing reminders to us, you know, from the world around us, but it's also, yeah, it's also inside of us already. And remembering all that can also help us really feel less alone. So I just want to say those things before we close the practice and dedicate it. I just want to say those few things. And it's a reminder to me and to you, like, I wasn't thinking about that when I was getting ready to teach. You know, it comes when we open ourselves up to the practice. And then the things just come to us and they come through us. And we just have to receive. And then we can also pass it on. So, yeah, we take one last look at this amazing, beautiful, beautiful, radiant emanation of Tara, this golden Tara. And we imagine, again, just refreshing that image of her radiating her light to us, to all the beings we've either mentioned or thought about or talked about or have come to us, all the areas, everything, the earth herself. We just see her shining that light out, again, very vividly. And then we just imagine her now receding back into her place in the mandala. And we focus again on the entire mandala and the teachings, all the beings. And we just see it really vibrating with light. And then we ask all the beings that we've invited to come here and be with us to go back to whatever realms that they came from. We thank them for coming, but we release them now from the practice. And some of those people we're going to call on again. It might be in 5 minutes. It's not like they're, like just going away, but we're really asking them to leave the sphere of our practice and our energy field and return to wherever they came from. And as they're doing that, we're just going to imagine this entire mandala of Tara dissolving into light. It can be like the biggest fireworks display you've ever seen. All those colors, just seeing all that light dissolving and spraying out into the universe in all directions, just going into infinity. And as it's doing that, it's also coming into us. And it comes into our heart. It comes to our heart where Tara already resides. You can even imagine it lights up the Tara in your own heart even more. And that Tara begins to radiate light, and it's going to radiate light to anybody you come in contact with, either literally or imaginally. And so after we've done all that, we're back where we started. We're back. Here we are in space, in this vast, amazing, beautiful space. And we dedicate the practice. We really ask that whatever merit or positive potential, positive energy, healing energy has been generated by our doing this practice together, we really dedicate it to the healing and awakening of all beings everywhere, all beings with no exceptions. And of course, that also includes us. And we give thanks. We give thanks for Tara and the teachings and the teachers and each other. Yeah. And so, yeah. You can sort of gradually come back. It's 8:35. So we have a little bit of time if some people want to share something. Somebody did ask me how to make a donation, and that's easy. You just can go to my website. There's a donate button on the website, and Karen will be putting that in the chat box. So I'm just reading through these prayers in the chat box. They're really beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And yeah, just, yeah, grateful to be able to actually see them. So does anybody want to be brave? Or you don't even have to be brave. You don't even have to be brave. Does anybody want to share something that came to you that?
I do.
Yeah, okay.
Hi, it's MJ.
Hi, MJ.
Hi, thank you. That was so lovely. Couple of things. I really felt a sense of surrender into the golden light during this practice. And I realized that so often I ask for help all the time, but then I think I put up a shield against receiving it or accepting any help that's coming. And so I'd like to ask, your opinion about that. And then there was one other time, like Chris, I heard this Tammy Simon interview and got the book. And between that time and when we started our monthly practices together, I always was a little afraid of the wrathful ones. And I sensed it's because I avoid conflict at all costs. But since we did the red, swift, and courageous Tara that month, I got a sense of the generative power and warrior spirit that was there, which has really helped because I've got my father's 94 and he's been having some health challenges and there's been complications there. So it's allowed me access to resources within myself that I didn't know I had.
Wow.
So I just wanted to share that.
Well, thank you. And I do want to say I'm glad you brought that up about asking for help and then feeling like you're putting up a shield. I don't think that's so unusual, actually. And not that, okay, I have a solution. The solution is to keep working with that. But the thing that also is just if you can feel immense gratitude for that awareness. One thing that is really helpful to remember is that these practices, Tara is pretty amazing, and she, her claim to fame is helping with fear, and deep compassion, right? But she has all these wrathful emanations, and she has all these other emanations, regardless of which one you're working with. The most peaceful ones, the most beautiful ones, it's we can all of a sudden become aware of these old patterns. That's one of the things the practice does. And when you first become aware of it, you're like, oh my God, what is that? It's almost like we think, well, if I'm doing the practice, that shouldn't be showing up. But so, I guess actually there should be like some kind of box label warning on the package, beware. Awareness really is awareness, and you're likely, I think Susan was talking about that at the beginning, you're likely to become aware of some stuff that's like, man, if you can muster gratitude for that awareness and then, ask for help with that. I mean, it's kind of ironic. Let's ask for help for asking for help, But, yeah, I just want to say thank you for all of that, for mentioning that, because I really think that's an important topic. So you gave me a chance to mention it. And I was actually thinking tonight, like, we won't get to the first wrathful emanation for a couple of months. The 6th one is the first wrathful emanation. Oh man, I just seriously love them, because they are I have one teacher say they're just the depiction of the most fierce compassion you can ever imagine. And what I like to think of them sort of personally is Yeah, there's just nothing that I can do that they're not going to go, oh yeah. You know, and I think so many of us in the West have so much trouble with criticizing ourselves. You know, we just think we're horrible for this, that, and that, and that, and that. The stuff that goes through our minds, and to think that these wrathful Taras, man, that there's just nothing that is just going to cause them to blink an eyelash. And I also think they are protectors, because when you go deeper and deeper and deeper, and then sometimes you can run into some extraordinarily difficult stuff. And to think that that protector is there to, you know, it really helps you from turning against yourself or, you know, getting too scared. So I think we'll talk more about the wrathful Taras when we get there, but I really encourage you to think of them as expressions of just unbelievable, fierce compassion, and there's nothing you can show them that's gonna it's gonna cause her to any pause. So Jeff, I see you have your hand up.
Oh yeah, hi Rachel.
Hi Jeff.
Someone is asking, and I was going to email you too about a few things, but what was the name of the protector being you mentioned?
Oh, his name is Amrita Kundali, and actually I'll put it in the chat box. And yeah, you know, I can't tell you a whole lot extra about him except what I say in the practice. And again, you know, he really is there to clear away obstacles. When we first started doing these practices like 25 years ago, and man, I was really new to it. And I was like, should I even be doing this? And my teacher's going to do it. And I'm doing it with people never heard of Tara at all. And so when we would get to these various parts, like that part, and I'm telling people, yeah, imagine this blue wrathful deity is coming over your heart. And inside I'm thinking, oh my God, they're going to just think I've lost it. However, what I discovered is that for many people, that's their most favorite part. And one person told me, if any of y'all remember Pac-Man, the video game, I think the Pac thing was blue, you know, and it just came along gobbling up all the obstacles. So we started calling him the Pac-Man of the practice. But yeah, that idea that he clears away obstacles, and I like to think of him you know, because this is a formal practice, right? But I mean, we're practicing all the time. And so we have informal practices. And it's nice to think of him clearing away obstacles, you know, even on the street. Yeah, there is one thing one other thing that came to me this afternoon when I was talking to my friend that I want to mention, but we've got a little bit of time left. So I just want to see if anybody else has anything they want to say. Okay, Elizabeth. So you have to unmute yourself, I think. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, thank you so much. I was introduced to you through Whitney Freya, the painting, the 21 emanations. And I have not stopped doing the resuscitations every day. And I just had to say, when somebody talked about a wall or a boundary, I think one day it was like the election, like right around the election, and I had a man friend, and we weren't agreeing on anything that was going on when we were having conversations. So I just somehow just knew to find the red, is it the dark red hum Tara with the boundary?
Yeah.
So I had done 108 resuscitations that morning before I had seen him. And I was in his house, and we were having started to have the disagreement. And I just chanted that in my mind. Literally a force literally came through me. And we both like I just stood and I could feel a force field.
Wow.
And he stepped back and I just held my space. But I was like, that is a physical
Wow.
Tara. Like that's the physical
Wow.
something
Sure.
woke up. And I've been hooked ever since. I mean, when you can, I mean, I don't necessarily need to see anything that physical. That was like a real powerful force.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I'm open. I'm just open to whatever I'm supposed to be shown. And I love it. I'm so grateful for the practices. So I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth. And I think, you know, this is why I'm so glad. This is why I wanted to switch from Crowdcast back to Zoom. And even though, you know, we all can't say everything all the time, but one of the things I've learned over the years is that when people share what their experience was, we all get to experience in a way. And we might not have the same experience, but we sort of have a vicarious experience. And I think you're making a good point too. It can also, something can show up that's that vivid and that palpable. And it's not always like that, right? And so the fact that I really like what you said, it's like, well, I don't expect that to happen every single time. It could be something else. And I think that's really important too. It's just good for us to hear what other people's experiences are. Yeah, Carol Ann. You have to unmute yourself, I think.
Hi, Rachel.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
I can.
I can't tell you how grateful I am for you. I'm a long-term Tibetan Buddhist practitioner, and I dedicated practitioner of White Tara.
Oh, okay.
Also, I practice Green Tara. I come from a very long history of an abusive childhood and a lot of violence in my childhood, and I suffer from PTSD.
Mm.
I've managed that through Tibetan Buddhism, but you come along, this angel, that opens a realm of female energy and introduces me to the realm of the 21 Taras. And through that, reading your book, and it's my heart book, each Tara that I've been introduced to has opened up a remembrance of things I've blocked out. We've got to remember to heal, Biden says.
Yeah.
And slowly I've opened up, and it's been traumatic. I've cried.
Sure, yeah.
I've done everything. I've been elated. I've gone through so much, and it's a wonderful thing to go through because the pain heals and the remembrance heals.
Yeah.
And the female energy of my connection with you and with everybody. I mean, I study Native American history. I've got a very strong connection. Longing for Darkness opened me up. The book, Longing for Darkness. The things that you talk about, my connection with you through those things has also been on top of that.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, thank you
So,
for sharing that, Carol Ann.
yeah,
That's wonderful.
I just want to say really thank you. You're very precious, and
Well,
we need you.
I will try not to put up a barrier to that. I'm trying to take that in. Thank you. Thank you very much. So I want to say this thing that came to me today, and it was, I just don't think I had ever been able to articulate this. Again, I was talking to my friend who's African American, and she was talking about the prayer breakfast this morning and all the different traditions that were represented, but all the different ethnicities, and then all the different people with gender preferences and whatever. and she said it was just stunning. And so for her, it was like what Kamala Harris is talking about. You can be it if you can see it. And she's a pastor herself, so she was just reveling in all this. And as I was listening to her and just was feeling so sad, and I thought, what is this? And it's always been this way. And I realized really in my own depths that if anyone is excluded, I am excluded. And when I see things, I didn't actually see it this morning because I was working, but just watching some other parts of this. When I see something like that, where everyone is included, my heart is just like, I want to belong to that. I want to belong to that. I feel included if everybody's included. And I'm not sure that I could have said that as clearly. For me, sometimes it helps me when the intellect and the heart and the gut are all connected. And this Buddhist idea of shunyata, interdependence, emptiness, whatever you call it, that we really are all connected. And actually Jesus talked about this too. If you do this for somebody, you've done it for me. And if you do that to somebody, you've done it to me. But it's like I really got it. And I think I got it because of these teachings, really. We really are all connected. We really are all that. And if something is being excluded, we can feel the pain of that. So I want to say, so Karen has put the link to this initiation. There's a conversation going on about the initiation. So I'll just mention that the link to that is on my website. And I did write a blog post about that because people are like, what is an initiation anyway? And I do want to say that I think in the blog post I was telling people, you'll know what to do. You'll know whether it's for you. And I really want to say that's true. And at the same time, I want to say it's a pretty incredible opportunity. He hasn't done this since he did it with us 25 years ago. I mean, he's done countless other initiations, but this particular one, which is actually into this particular practice, and it usually happens the other way around. Usually people take an initiation and then they're given a practice. So, this is a little different because we all already have the practice. And, it's a very traditional Tibetan thing, but, you'll learn a lot and you will get an energetic transmission from it. And I want to say, I've known Rinpoche since 1994. So what is that, 27 years? I've just never met a kinder person. And he's brilliant in all kinds of other things too, really. But I've just never met a kinder person. So, there is the idea that if you take an initiation, you will then have a karmic connection with that teacher. But I just kind of want to say two things. A, you've already got a karmic connection with him because I got all this from him anyway. And B, he's a very safe person to have a karmic connection with. So anyway, Karen put the link to the website where it is. It's in Swiss time. So Swiss time 6 hours ahead of us. So it's whatever AM in the morning right now. I mean, Eastern time. I keep forgetting we're not all on Eastern time. And I wrote in this blog post, if you have questions or problems, where you can write, but to say, if you're thinking about doing it, the deadline is Sunday. Yeah. And I think, is it possibly true that I've said everything? Actually, no, the last thing I want to say is Karen, our tech host, for some reason has removed her video. I don't know why. But there you go. Karen, thank you so much. I just can't thank you enough. It's really, I'm so glad literally to see all of you. It's just so much better. And to hear you. And I can't keep up with all that, and also the chat box and every other thing. So Karen, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate it. Yeah, and
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
So goodness sakes, a lot has changed since the last time we practiced. Oh, I'm sorry. See, I told you, I warned you. When you hear me say, here's the last thing, it's never true. The last thing is, one of my friends said, I'm really worried about Joe Biden. I said, why? She said, because he's 78 and this is going to really take a toll on him. She's not worried about his capacity, like, some people. Anyway, so I really do think it's not a bad idea to say long life prayers and practices and dedicate them to Joe and to Kamala, and also to all these people who've just stepped up to the plate, man, and they're just ready to get rolling. So yeah, I just wanted to support them, give them the life energy it's going to take to hear everybody say, you promised to do this. Have you done it yet? It's been 24 hours. So anyway, love to you all. It's been a real pleasure, I have to say. And be well, take care of yourselves. Practice in any way that comes to you to do it, and watch out for the bluebirds. Okay. All right. Take care. Bye. Mm.